we're going on with our Dreamtime stories today. It's just that what we had already started in class, we may not be able to continue with those. I know in 1S we were writing them together in groups of 2, and that's a bit tricky given that you're at home. 1S, we might put our stories away until we come back together, but you can still use the ideas and the topics that you came up with. And 1H, I know Miss Haynes has been reading stories to you as well. We've looked at the Bunyip Hunt and we watched Tiddalik for our inquiry. We've been reading How the Birds Got Their Colours. And I also know that students at home in their own time have been watching YouTube clips of other Dreamtime stories. So you can take some ideas from that. But we are going to start writing today using this template to get our bits and pieces right, much like a recipe. So all the pieces come together and we might get a nice cake at the end of it. Okay, so the first thing I would ask you to do is come up with an animal. An elephant would be a great one, but it's not an Australian animal. And the Indigenous stories tend to be about native animals to our country. So you could think of any animal that comes from here, and if you're not sure, have a look at some of the stories or maybe ask someone at home. So the next thing that you could do is think of a title. 1S came up with some great ones that we had. How the Wallaby Got Its Pouch, How the Boxing Kangaroo Came to Be, How the Kangaroo Learned to Hop, things like that. It can be anything, and it can even be one that you've really read in a story before, but maybe change it a little bit. So we try to get your own ideas. This says the title, all right? So have a think about what you'd like it to be. And I'm going to just do a really rough one, just so that you know if you're sitting at home and you're really not sure and you're scratching your head. So I will do how the platypus, that's one of my boys did, how the platypus got its bill. So I will choose how the platypus learned to swim. And it's okay if you go back and change your mind, because this is a draft. And I've asked Mum and Dad or Nan, whoever's at home with you, not to go in and correct it and not to make changes, because Miss Haynes and I would like to see it full of all of those original ideas, and then we can have a look at changing it. So if you ask Mum, how do I spell bat? Hopefully Mum or Dad will say, have a go, and we'll look at it at the end, because we want those ideas on the page. This is a big word, and that's why I'm doing this video. Orientation is very big for year 1. Basically means the beginning of the story. So my story might be in a billabong, so I might write billabong, because that's where my story is going to start. I don't need to write a lot of sentences, because this is just putting my ideas together. Characters, I need a platypus, don't I? At this stage, I think he's going to be my main character, but I might have to put something else in. So some of the stories we've been reading were about Aboriginal elders and tribes people, so I might put in an elder, maybe someone who's very old and wise in the tribe. That's my characters, but they can come back. The setting, I kind of did that up here. So the orientation of the setting are very similar. The orientation is about the beginning of the story and where it's going to go, but it's pretty much the same. So billabong, setting, maybe I could say it's happening at night. Okay, so it could be the billabong at night, or you might add in there something about, is it on the rocks, is it on a mountain top, is it happening in the water or the river? You can choose. The events. We're good at events because we've been doing lots of sequencing this year. So my platypus has to learn to swim, so I might need to have him, maybe, I might say he walks, he gets in trouble. Sometimes in these stories it's usually people who are not being very wise, and then they have to learn a lesson, don't they? Oh. My board's being very naughty today, but I'm onto it because 1S will know that sometimes my board can be a little bit naughty. Let's see if we can get it to work again. Might have to pause, guys, and I'll come back. You just bear with me for a second rather than starting again. I worked it out. Gets in trouble and learns to swim. The last one is the lesson of the story, and every time we have a Dreamtime story, it tends to be a lesson. You think about my class watched the Willy Wagtail. So what's the lesson? Okay, well maybe my lesson could be to be kind. That's a good lesson, isn't it? That's like all my ingredients coming together, and over here I need to have a go at putting them together. I don't need to write a very long story. It's okay, don't feel pressure to fill up a page. Let's just see what we know. So I've got my story title, which I will write very quickly. And it's okay if it's messy because it's our rough copy. Okay, so I need to come up with a story about a platypus in the billabong at night who was obviously walking, so maybe he had legs. He did something wrong, and then in the end he was, maybe he lost his legs and then learned to swim that way. Maybe the elders got mad at him for not being kind and said that he would become a platypus that couldn't walk on land and had to swim for his time in the billabong forever. And then he knew that was his punishment for being kind. Now that's a lot of talking, and that's a good plan, but I've got to try and put it into a sentence now. So if you could just try and come up with the ingredients and try and come up with what we've got here for you, and you can use mine if you're really stuck, and see if we can write a couple of sentences. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute now, and you can read what I am writing as we go. Be a platypus, so I want to change that. So it's good to show you that we can change things. Once a man you don't have to rub it out. You can just scribble or put an arrow, or you can put a line through it. Trying to be a bit clever and make it about the legs. So I said, once a man was very unkind to his friends. He would kick them. The elder, so the indigenous person, that's the wise person of the tribe, the elder got angry and the man was forevermore a creature that would swim in the billabong. So I've got to remember where my story was, wasn't I? Because I looked over there and it was the billabong. And then at the bottom, I could say, from that day on, he was kind. It probably looks like a lot of writing, but the main thing is you've given it a go, and you are going to use the planning notes to come up with a sentence or two. And that, my friends, is writing, and I know you can do it, and I'm very proud to see, excited to see what you'll do. If you don't like this, or you have some things to add, remember you don't have to rub anything out. You can come along with a different coloured pencil or crayon and make some changes. What kind of man was Teddy? Once an unkind man. And I use that little tiny carrot we talked about last time around. Was very unkind to his friends. He would kick them with his legs. And of course it would be his legs, wouldn't it? But we could do things like that. We could actually add things. You might not like one part and you want to change it around, but that's part of writing. So I know Mum and Dad might be tempted to go in and correct it for you, but have a go first, and if you get stuck, certainly ask for help. But don't worry too much about your spelling and changes until the end. And I think today's task will be for you to show us what you've done, not the good typed up beautiful copy, no, this one, okay, with writing and maybe some scribbles and maybe some extra changes. That is our draft. Good luck, and if you have any questions, don't forget Mum or Dad or Nan or whoever's at home can sector in a question. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Happy writing.